Welcome back, brother.
What's up, man?
Chilling, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate the drink and the hospitality of hosting this episode, man.
Absolutely, bro. That's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, just for those who are watching this is just a kind of halfway point through our season, in season 2 of the Days End podcast, and so with Michael coming on board, I think we have just a really chill and interesting update podcast, which we haven't done in a while because we've been so inundated with guests for the season. Yeah, which was unlike season 1 was basically all just like us,
Right.
the main host. So
Exactly.
I was thinking about it today as I was working and going through my day, kind of about like what I was going to ask you specifically about being on this season on this podcast. And I'm interested to know what you think. Because when you think about like a podcast, right?
Yeah.
From the outside looking in, you're like, man, that could be really cool. Or a lot of people are like, that could be really overwhelming.
Ah.
And so, but if you decide that that's something that's really cool and you decide you want to get into it, and then you find yourself just thrown into this process, it comes with a lot of things that you probably didn't expect.
Oh, absolutely. Right. I think the biggest misconception, right? Because we always see these podcasts, and the podcasts that we look up to or that we listen to are very mature. Right?
Yeah.
They're very mature podcasts. They have people in the background. They have people for their people, and they're
People for their people,
they're
yeah.
just doing everything for them, and really just the host shows up, does the podcast, and leaves, and everything else is done for them, right? And I think that was kind of like an awakening moment of like, there's a lot that goes into a podcast, right? Like, this is fun, it's easy, it's why we do the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then everything else that comes after, to be able to produce the podcast and actually publish it, has been a major process, right?
And do it well. Yeah.
And that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Do it in a way that is quality, and not sacrificing on everything that we really want. Being able to put all these things together, from posts to hiring people to do social, to do just so much goes into this, and it's been an amazing learning experience. But also, it's just been it just feels like, I think the best way to sum it up, right, is we have all of the guests that we talk to, right? Some of them have that moment where they look back and go, this worked. It's that moment. And we have other guests that are like, we don't know what that feels like yet. I think we don't know what that feels like yet.
Yeah, we have kind of seen like an interesting shift between the two of those.
Yeah.
That like you can really tell when we've met a startup company that's
Right.
like in the thick of it. You know, we have some interesting episodes that are coming up for this season that kind of showcase some of that. You know.
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing, right? Is being able to showcase like individuals and organizations that are on the Inc. 5000, but are very much in build mode still.
Yeah.
Versus there's other ones that and episodes have already come out, and the business is kind of more mature, right? It's they've seen that success, or they have a track record of success, and this is like, and what they have on Inc. 5000 was like a side project or something that just happened to be successful.
Yeah, which is kind of daunting if you think about it. If you like really think about it, some of these companies that we've talked to and these founders and company owners are like 7 years into this process. They're doing really well. Just by the way, shout out to Puffin's Drinkware. If you've never seen these before, it's fancy drinkware for, I guess, whatever canned beverage that you decide.
Oh yeah, it's like dress up your cans by. I mean, this is not sponsored at all.
Yeah.
This is one of the coolest brands that we were able to actually have on the podcast that is releasing soon, or has released.
Yeah, I think it's going to be episode. We're on episode 8.
Episode 8.
And so I think
up.
it's 10. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to take a look.
10 or
Tyrone
11.
Hazen, his company Puffin Drinkware. He's the founder and head of partnerships now.
Yeah.
Fantastic. They're doing amazing things. They got stuff coming out all the time. I'm placing another order tonight on some of the new drops that they just had. So awesome guys, awesome mission, and even cooler founder though. Puff and Drinkware.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? They just came up. I got a notification in my email, and I was really excited when I got it. They just came up with a camo vest.
RTX? No, what is it?
I don't know what the camo is.
I don't either.
But 1,000% I'm getting it.
Yes, that one, and then they also dropped another one as well. Like
another new one?
Back to back, yeah. So they dropped one yesterday, and they dropped another one today. I just got it on LinkedIn, and so
yeah, I guess when you get featured in Netflix, things start to snap after
things go a little faster.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it is super interesting. Or I'm very interested from your perspective, kind of what you're thinking about, just the process of where this is headed. Obviously, you coming on board as having the introduction to the podcast, and adding you on for season 2 was a fun time, especially with Cody. And just by the way, for those who keep up with the show, Cody's not gone.
No,
he's on hiatus right now. The guy's so busy with the oil field and some of the changes that are happening right now, as well as I think he had like a mishap with his computer. So we're figuring all that out, but his personality will be back. But when you came on board and you had aspirations for what the podcast or your idea of what the podcast would become based upon your skill set and what you bring to the table halfway through now the season, just to preface that for those who are watching, we're recording this episode while number 8 is recording, but we're already about halfway through, if not beyond that. So but now with us being halfway through the season, what do you think? First is like introduction to now. Do you think that we've seen growth? Do you think, obviously we've seen growth. Do you think we're heading in the right direction? Do you think it was any of what you thought it was going to be in terms of, obviously we talked about, sitting down and doing the fun part of recording, but all the back end stuff as well. Like, is the excitement still there?
100%.
Okay.
It's, what I like the most is what we set out to do at the beginning of season 2, right? When I first came on board. And I 100% believe we're executing on that.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Right? Like we are 1,000% executing on what we set out to do, right? Like we wanted to get season 2 100% completed by like the end of November. Like we're executing on that. We are on track for that, right? And then we're even possibly on track to overbook and even move into season 3. And so I am 100% happy there. Yeah. And I think that there's been challenges from a back-end perspective, right? Not only just from a workload, but also like just managing all of the pieces that are coming together, right?
Yeah.
And we have yet to build automation within this. We have yet to build like a really good system around that, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like as long as we're executing and we're seeing tangible results, then we'll work those kinks out, right?
Yeah.
We just keep rolling, we keep pushing, and we build on this momentum, and that's what I'm excited about, is building on the momentum that we already have.
Yeah, because really honestly, from like day one, when you initially sent out some of those feelers for the Inc. 5000 list and some potential guests that could jump on, it was like hook, line, sinker, like and we ran with it after that, and so. It's funny because you have this idea. Season 1 was overwhelming, and Cody says it best, but season 1 was overwhelming because of all the mistakes that we made and all of the lost 2-hour sessions, hour-and-a-half sessions, 1 hour, whatever they were. Hit the mute button. You have all this technical difficulties. And so season 1 was really challenging from that perspective, because once you lose that, and you're like, man, I have to do it again. So then you do it the next day, and you find yourself like podcasting 3-4 days out of the week. It's just a little challenging. So the idea was like, okay, you come on board. We have we have guests, some new guests that are coming on, some powerhouse guests, and maybe things get easier. And it hasn't. It really hasn't. We got a chance to shift. It's more effective. I'll say that. But we got a chance to shift some of our motivation, I think, and our momentum in the right direction. Mm-hmm. But that still doesn't stop the grind. Basically, it's like what we were talking about with some of these founders that have been doing their companies for 7 years, and they're seeing, 500%, 300% increases in revenue or just growth overall. But you just see them and they're still no vacations, worn out, if you ask them about what they do personally, you're like, what are you talking about? Personal time, so.
It's like, it's been eye-opening watching these entrepreneurs in action, right? Being able to talk to them, being able to see what their days to day look like, and having a front row seat into those conversations of what that is, right? Anybody from $2 million a year in revenue to half a billion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like we're seeing the spectrum. And I think that is really cool, right? But if I'm being honest, right, I think this is like kind of a good segue of like some of the learning lessons that we're kind of hanging on to through the season as well, is the one thing that is constant between all the entrepreneurs, from small entrepreneurs all the way to very seasoned executive type of entrepreneurs.
Frank Cottle,
yeah. Right? Like we're seeing the spectrum, and the one thing that's consistent is they are all grinders. They're all in the trenches. They're all willing to get in and do the work, and it's about speed.
Yeah,
how fast can I go and how efficient can I be? Right? And if I can't be a fast and efficient, then I'm not delegating, right? Then I need to delegate more so I can be fast and efficient, right? And a couple of people that follow on LinkedIn, like, this has been like a kind of like this topic that has been really high up on my LinkedIn lately. Just everybody's talking about, but something that we're observing through these conversations is like staying in your like lane of genius.
That's
right?
Okay.
Like, don't move outside of it. And if anything takes you away from what you are just freaking good at, like this is your lane and you know it better than anybody, anything that comes in that, it needs to be delegated immediately.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and we're still working some of that stuff out internally ourselves, trying to figure out,
we're all here.
I mean, the sheer amount of programs that you potentially, it's not whether or not you're going to use all of them at the same time. It's
right.
But you're for sure going to migrate between different ones, especially from like a customer service perspective.
Yeah.
Where one fails you and you've paid a certain amount of money, whether that's on Fiverr and you're getting somebody to do clips for you, I think just first and foremost, for those who might be starting a podcast for the first time, you're going to go through quite a few thumbnail Fiverr agents, freelancers.
You really are.
Just trying to find the right one that's going to work with you, And that first one might be perfect, and then you're like, man, this is the right person. And then the second one, I think it's just there's like an upsell. There's an upsell for like the first product, and then everything drops off after that. And so, but yeah, it's just interesting the sheer amount of programs that you have to maneuver through to find the right, I guess, package or deal or just result of what you're looking for your podcast, whether you're pop culture on like your thumbnails or this different styles of reels that you're trying to make and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
We don't have time tonight to talk about it. We could dive really deep into analytics of like how reels do on all the social platforms and the stress that comes from trying to figure out SEO optimization and stuff like that. So
oh yeah, I feel like that's a completely other podcast, right? That's like being able to just to go through that and learning lessons and like what we learned and what we pivoted to like make work and not work, and what we're doing for that and what we're not doing, and like what it takes to launch a podcast and actually get it out there and actually have people listen to it and actually have an impact, right? Like that, it takes a lot of work. And I think that is the biggest like thing for me that was a surprise, was how much work there is going into setting up podcast, right? Setting up, a mini studio on the fly, everything, right? And then like, it's just, there's so much that goes into it, but I'm still excited today as I was the day I came.
That's good to
board.
that's good to know. Yeah. Sometimes I drive home from work and I'm like, man, am I scaring them off yet? I'm like this. I'm telling you, it can really be a daunting experience trying to start something that everybody's doing it, And there is like
Right.
don't get me wrong, there is like a lot of automation, like you were talking about. We haven't really jumped into the automation yet of like the product and how it gets distributed and stuff like that.
Right.
But and even AI tends to help a ton.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like the conversation. Robots are never going to replace humans.
Not at all.
It doesn't matter how smart they get, just because a human being is able to interpret things just a specific way off of our soul and spirit and right. And so it's kind of the same thing here. We can use AI to clip things. We can use AI to distribute things, to channel things, to I guess give the process a little ease factor, but at the end of the day, who's like controlling the AI?
Exactly.
Human beings. So,
right. In a sense, right?
Kind of, yeah.
And so I think where we're using AI the most, right, is this process automation. How can we take a process and automate the process with AI or triggers or whatever, right? It doesn't even have to be AI in the sense of what we believe AI is today from like a user interface perspective, but it could be very much just a bunch of connectors, right? I mean, there's so much that goes into that for process automation and being able to have a little more efficiency through that. But I think we're using it well. I think for what we have today and what we have built and the amount of growth that we've seen in season 2 and how fast we are booking, I think we're doing pretty dang well.
Yeah, and the constant reminder has to be like, this is only season 2.
Only season 2, exactly. Only season 2.
Completely different than, having like a hit TV show or being like a professional sport, player or a musician. I don't know. It's just something that's already in the limelight and then shifting and going, it's kind of like a football player wanting to jump into music. Typically, even though their music probably isn't the best, they have some form of like a following almost initially, right? Because of like their time in sports or football. And so to do this from ground zero without having exposure yet has definitely been a real challenge. But I also think like the authenticity of the types of conversations that we're having is probably, I'd say 85% of the reason why we're growing in the right direction. And that's leading to more guests that are wanting to come on based upon those connections and interactions that we're having with some of these founders and CEOs. And
absolutely,
it's Michael and I were talking about it the other day, which is we set the podcast for like an hour and a half, but then like the guests will like take it like an hour and 45 to 2. That's a great thing, but then you have to ask yourself the question that you asked it the other day is like, our podcast too long, know, but it's kind of hard to determine if it is or not. If our guests are having fun and they're having a good time in the conversation, then really it just needs to go as long as it needs to. Yeah. In a way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I think we're doing good for what we have today.
Okay, sure.
I think we're building it well, and that's what it makes it. And that's honestly all we can do, right? Is like as we go, like I'm learning a ton as we go, right? I'm learning a lot about media production, post production, right? How like clipping and audio, video setup and management of like everything, right? Like, there's a lot, but I think the cool part is I like learning, right? And these are real like skill sets, right?
It is, yeah.
That you're learning and building and growing, and I think that is really cool, right? So that way we can keep iterating, and once we keep iterating, the process and the quality only gets better from here.
We had what was it, episode number 3 with Kelly Craft.
Yeah.
We talked about, going to college versus not going to college.
Yep.
And I think about that a lot of times, and really you can go either direction, right? Mm-hmm. But I think what happens is when you start with experience first and you really enter a realm of failure through trial and error and stuff like that, and then you can recognize the areas that you need to grow in from an educational perspective. Mm-hmm. And then you take that and you go and you apply yourself to, like, we got a startup grind coming up here pretty quick. And so you can go and learn in person. with a bunch of entrepreneurs that are doing this in real time versus if you were to go to school for, I don't even know what that class or that degree or that, that class would be. There's probably a million, right? And so, man. But like you can go and like in real time meet somebody that's going through some of these challenges, just like what we're doing in our episodes. But then at the same time, like, you sent me something the other day about trying to kind of improve. There's like some classes that are out there, 1,000% into it. And so there's areas that I think for me personally, when I think about season 1 and season 2, where we are in season 2, confidence is through the roof.
Oh yeah. Just
because we're capable of being able to talk, I think, in a way that is sustainable. To communicate is like the first and foremost thing of a podcast, right? Quality is getting up there in terms of like the equipment that we got. But specifically, I feel like I'm zeroing in on some areas that I could probably improve on. And I know what those areas are now and some resources that I can use to I guess better myself for the seasons, to come and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So
yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah,
it's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
So, question back to you then. How do you feel with where we are today, and when we first kind of started out season 2? Is it expectations or?
We should be at 10,000 followers. Why aren't you following our podcast?
Exactly. This is your time.
Yeah, that's it. No, man, I'm very excited. I at times am also overwhelmed by just the amount of growth that we're experiencing. Also, the challenges are increasing, and I think difficulty the more that you get, because if you have 4 people following you. No offense, like those love the 4, right? But if you have 4 people following you versus you have 200 people following you, or 10,000 people following you, or 200,000 people following you, that pressure just only gets greater and greater, right?
Right.
And so it's like, it's kind of like any other business situation where you can hire, but the main challenge is retention. How do you there was a guest we had, right, where they, which is an episode to come, but they had like 90% retention and incredible numbers, right?
Yeah.
How do we do that? How do you do that online when there's so many bots, when there's so many people that are just fast thinking, onto the next thing, onto the next chapter, next trend?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I feel very fortunate. I feel very thankful to have this platform to, again, first and foremost, it helps me, to work through some anxieties in my life or maybe insecurities in my life. But then now we're starting to see it shift into people are communicating about the podcast back to us in ways that are encouraging, right? Encouraging, whether it changed their life from a spiritual perspective, changed their life in terms, or not changed their life, but it impacted their lives from a business perspective. Oh man, I didn't even think about that. But that one guest, I never thought that I needed to do that about taxes or whatever it could be, right? And so we're starting to see a little trend of it doing that, and people are coming back to us and sharing some of the stories that we're distributing out onto the internet. And so I'm excited, I'm overwhelmed, but I'm also just thrilled to see what even potentially season 3 is going to bring. Because
I'm excited for season 3.
Obviously, we want to be, I don't know about you, but I really want to be where we're going already.
Oh, absolutely, right? But man, that's a very important piece to even talk about, right? It's trusting the process to get there.
Yeah.
Right? It's we so badly want it, and we're on track to do it, right? There's no indication that we're not. Could it all go up in smoke? 100%, right? But if we just keep at it and keep building and keep growing and keep producing just quality content, man, we'll 100% reach the goals that we have for the podcast itself.
It makes me think about your day one suggestion. Just keep this thing cool. I just go back to this all the time. And I think about all the companies that I've worked for in my tenure in safety. And I think about the times where we saw the most significance in growth and retention and in revenue increases, etc. And all of those times were the times when the company, because I've always gotten this opportunity to kind of work pretty close to upper management, right?
Yeah.
From a CEO owner perspective. And all of those times within the several companies I was with, it seemed like we were flourishing the most when it was like, we're just really happy where we are. What is that? You know, to figure that out, to tap into that, I think would just be, man, would be an awesome podcast. I think would just be an awesome revelation to be able to tap into the mindset of being happy where you are somehow promotes your business like 1,000% somehow. It like tends to, and I'm not talking about complacency. Right. I'm talking about the mindset of, hey, we do things with integrity. We do things with transparent, or we're transparent about what we're doing. Customer service is probably fantastic. All those things right in that moment where they're like, hey, we don't really need to do more. Let's just keep doing this small bubble of great things that we're doing. We're seeing some increase on. That tends to snowball so much quicker. And I could be wrong. There's a lot of industries, but I feel like that snowballs so much quicker than just like having this like grand scheme of like what the business is going to be, and you're already trying to live 10 years down the road in the business.
Oh, I think that's why.
Does that make sense?
I think that's why entrepreneurs fail.
Yeah. Okay. Talk about that.
They're wanting to skip the hard crap. They're wanting to skip all the stuff that makes an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Right? You can't get 0 to 100 without going through 2 through 99. Like, you just can't.
Yeah.
Right? There's no shortcut around like success. There's no shortcut around great entrepreneurs. Like, at the end of the day, like, you have to do the work, and you have to get your teeth kicked in multiple times, and you have to pivot, and there's so much that goes on, right? Like, it's not this straight line that most people think about, right? And I think I see this being talked about a lot online, right? I think entrepreneurs or the quote unquote gurus that were here like 4 or 5 years ago are really starting to understand, crap, this stuff is hard, mm-hmm. right? This stuff is hard, right? Like, you gotta, when all the fluff and all the coolness fades away, and it's only you in your office at 2 a.m. going, crap, how do I make payroll?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Who do I gotta call to borrow payroll money and promise them at some point we're going to get paid to get it back, right? Yeah. Like, it's those conversations, it's that type of stress that makes or breaks an entrepreneur, and it's really a mindset game. Like, being able to have, like I've always said, like, grit will outweigh talent any day.
Yeah, it
just will. Right, I don't care how much talent you have, but if you don't have the grit to push through the hard crap, it's wasted. Oof. It's 100% wasted. And so, yeah, man, I think entrepreneurs themselves are not a dime a dozen.
No,
it's not.
Yeah,
right. They're in a category of their own, and then the ones that make things happen. And this goes along all the ways. Celebrities are seeing this. Yeah. Right. Like, when celebrities build out brands, and their status only gets them so far, right? And then it's like, oh, I need to build a business now. Like, I can't just use my name. Like, I have to build this, right? I gotta build systems and processes. I gotta build people, right? I gotta build, like, a vision. I gotta have people buy into. There's so much that goes into it. Right, that even celebrities have a hard time with it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, I'm sure there's many ways to look at it, but it's kind of like you almost need to be playing hot potato.
That's exactly what it is.
Right, you need to do this for a certain amount of time, and you need to switch it up, and you need to transition. But there's like two ways of looking at it, multiple ways, but two ways that I'm going to talk about.
Yeah,
there's that way, the hot potato, where you trend on this for a little while, and the trend changes, and you trend on that for a little while.
Yeah.
And you play this, like, it's almost like cryptocurrency. You play that game where you like buy at 13, sell it, or buy at 7, sell at 13, buy at 7, sell at 13. You just continue to incrementally do that, versus you buy at 0.0004 and then you hold and you wait for it to be what it could potentially be, if it's going to be, which comes with like a lot of risk. But I kind of feel like the Days End podcast is that game plan, because we see it a lot on YouTube with a lot of different podcasts that are having to shift, and companies, just organizations, shift their momentum and shift or pivot their thinking to adapt to like what's happening, right?
Yeah.
In the current society and stuff like that, or just the economy. Mm-hmm. And they're having to do that for relevancy, flip-flop every several years. But I feel like the Days and Podcasts were on this like mission where it is extremely slow. I want to be like I said, at 10,000 followers already. But if it never even gets there, we're still successful because we've gotten a chance to just sit here and have conversations. But I think the trajectory of like where we're going and how slow it is, we're shooting for where it's going to land at a time where podcasts like this and how slow they move, and right, like I said, the transparency, right, kind of getting back to like not necessarily about trying to really dig deep into clout and nail biting situations of
right.
Which is only ever temporary, if that makes sense. And
100%.
I feel like where hopefully the Days End podcast lands in the future is where that's kind of the next, or the trend again, because I feel like it used to be that way.
Yeah.
And then we hit Vine and and TikTok and all these different social platforms and stuff that kind of accelerated. We're almost in this like zip stream, if that makes sense.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's like, Vine started it all.
Yeah.
Right? Like Vine was just...
It's crazy to think about. Yeah.
Majorly successful. Right? Twitter bought it. Twitter shut it down. And then it just started.
Really?
Yeah.
Twitter bought it and Twitter shut it down?
Yeah. I'm fairly certain. Twitter bought it.
Wonder why they did that.
If I'm wrong, somebody fact check me. But I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And then it went to Musical.ly, right? And then Musical.ly turned into TikTok.
Wait, hold on a second. Vine got purchased by Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter shut it down.
Yes.
And then it got purchased by who?
No. So Vine, done, over with. Do you remember Musical.ly?
Yes.
Musical.ly was an app, right? Musical.ly is TikTok.
Okay.
Same company.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking like it was like Vine, the platform. I wonder though if that like from a software perspective, if like that platform is basically what TikTok is. Because I mean, if you think about it.
I think it's, I don't know. I don't know what the code base, what they do with the code base. Yeah. I'm sure they have it. But it's probably rolled into Twitter in some level, to be honest.
Wow.
I have no idea what that looks like. It might power their videos. I don't know.
Which is X now. Yeah.
Yeah, which is right. X.
It's so hard to do that. You've known it's Twitter for so long that you're like X. But if you say Twitter, everybody knows exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so like X. And so, I like what he's doing. Everybody was like, what the crap is he doing? I think people are still going, what the crap is he doing? I see the vision. I see what he's doing.
I like that he just messes with people.
This is freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. I think it's hilarious, and it rubs people wrong all the time.
I think it's the first time that a billionaire has used his billions to buy something to make a point.
Exactly. Listen, people can hate on Elon all he wants. Is he weird? Yeah. Does he have some off-the-wall crap that he says? 100%. Right? Does he say it because he doesn't care? 100%. Do we have off-the-wall crap that we want to say but don't say it?
1,000%. Yeah.
But we don't say it.
Yeah.
Right? He's just in a public eye and he's saying what he thinks. Whatever, right? It's free speech. It's exactly what X is, right? It's protecting the freedom of speech. But at the end of the day, he's the only one doing that much good. What was it? 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I can't remember when it was. When I think it was No Kid Hungry, a nonprofit. I can't remember what it is. It was
feel bad for not knowing.
It was a nonprofit. No Kid
to be
Hungry.
honest,
it's the orange logo one that's freaking everywhere. Multi-million-dollar nonprofit. And CEO had tweeted out at the time that that he would be able to solve like world hunger or something to that effect. And so Elon messaged him back and said, and he goes, I think it said it'll cost $6 billion to solve world hunger. And so Elon messaged him and said, show me how you're going to get there. I'll go sell Tesla stock. And I'll give you the $6 billion.
I'm guessing the guy didn't follow through.
Nope. Right? Because it's not that. Right? And that's a whole other conversation, stuff like that, like world hunger and what it is, right? It's not just about giving food, right? It's changing people's mindset about.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Right? It's a mindset change on poverty. It's a mindset change on everything, right? Like people actually believing that they're good enough to be able to get out of where they're going to get out of and having the grit to be able to move through that hard crap. It's like
saying solving the homeless crisis.
Right.
You can't, some people just want to be homeless.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
They're just like, I want to be homeless, right? You can't.
I don't want to follow the government. I don't want to
Yep.
And not to talk bad about the homeless. I have a huge heart. Obviously, both men of faith, so we have I really want to help as many as I possibly can. But some of them just like, they don't want it.
They don't.
And
right.
So how do you solve a crisis where certain people won't make choices? It's like, okay, I could solve world hunger if everybody ate rice, and some people are like, I don't want to eat that rice, So it's like, you're just going to go hungry then, Exactly. So you're right. It's the mind. It's how do you change that? You can't.
Exactly. So. Yeah. It's the $1 trillion question. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Right. It's a $1 trillion question. Like, how do you actually solve this in a sustainable way that's honestly scalable, right? Could you do it for a city? Yeah, you probably could. You could probably solve it for like a small town, but to solve it for America, you got to start small and scale it, right? And there's amazing companies that are trying to really hard, and God bless them, right? That's a hard thing to do, and that's all God's work.
Yeah,
because that's a hard thing to do, right? Because and a lot of them shut down just because of the platform or the model isn't scalable, right?
But I'd be open. I don't want to say I'd be open to that. I would be willing to be a part of a company that's willing to go as far as having to shut their doors. But before we get there, we're going to do as much positive change as possible.
Exactly, right? And those are mission-driven organizations.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, what's that one company or social media that got like blacklisted for the stuff it was doing in contention to like Facebook? Do you remember what I'm talking about? It was kind of during the last election time. We had a lot of misinformation. Social media was coming out. Probably shouldn't even be talking about this because
I don't know if I either don't know or my mind is blank.
Man,
I'll know what you're talking about.
We'll bring that up again. I can't remember what it was, but it was a social media app that was like the real freedom of speech like app.
Oh, and like Rumble?
Was it Rumble? It might have been
platform.
I don't know.
Or The Real Deal or something like that. The Real Deal.
I don't know, but this company ended up getting, millions of people from Facebook to come over and support it because during the time Facebook was really choosing who they wanted to promote, I guess, if that makes sense. And so this company, I can't remember what it's called. I'm sorry. I'm jumping on this tangent about a company I can't even name, which is probably for the better because once I say it, the algorithm's going to come and destroy our platform. So, but they went out there. A lot of people came from Facebook, went over to them. They had real freedom of speech. It's what they kind of marketed. And then there's a bunch of stuff that happened on the back end side of that, and they end up getting shut down from a server perspective. I think it was Amazon. I think Amazon was tied into that because of some...
Oh, AWS shut it down.
Yes. I remember that. You know who I'm talking... You know what I'm talking about.
I don't know the company, though.
Yeah. We just won't mention it. So...
Yeah, I have no idea who it is, but yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah, AWS... either they shut them down or ordered to shut them down or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, AWS is correct. I'm pretty sure because of some guidelines or something like that. But everybody knew the real reason for it, you know. And so I say all that long-winded to say to be a part of something like that, though, as disappointing and discouraging as it is, they're no longer around, and they definitely could have been. It would have put, in my opinion, it probably would have put Facebook not out of business, but it would have put them equal to Facebook instantly, and we would have probably had two options to choose from, which you really don't have right now. Like Instagram's not Facebook, but it is because they own it, but like it's all Meta, but it's not the same platform. They do totally different things, kind of similar, but totally different things.
Yeah.
And just like Twitter's not Facebook, Threads, how many social medias do we need?
I mean, honestly, right? And
are we that bored? Are we like that saturated in these markets of social media that we need that many?
No, we have it's citizens of the world are short-memoried and short attention spans and want to engulf themselves in something that's not in this world, and that is their brain of trying to feel connected. But what ultimately happens is it pulls them away from the world of connectivity, right? Because the ultimate idea of Facebook, the ultimate idea of these social platforms were to be social,
to connect people,
right? It's to connect people, and then ultimately people will connect in person, right? You have these relationships that you're able to be able to create across board, and it's just taking its toll, right? And I mean, there's talks and all kinds of stuff like social media is bad, and you can say social media is bad, but social media didn't do anything.
It's true.
Guns don't kill people.
Whoa.
Social media didn't make people depressed.
That's true. It's true.
It's people.
It just opened a drawer. And
opened a door and it became a mirror of who people really were.
Interesting.
Right? And so, at the end of the day, that's all it was. Social media became a mirror, and then people bought into that mirror, and then people took and ran with it. Right?
Yeah, but it never stops at the mirror. It always ends up.
Never does.
You end up not liking what you see in the mirror, and then like you go and you get more mirrors, and you stack more mirrors around yourself.
Let's think about it.
Yeah.
Let's think about it from a positive perspective.
Okay.
Right? Person looks at themselves not happy with the way they look. Right? They've looked at themselves 10, 15 times, not ready to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But they look at themselves for the 100th time, they go, you know what? I'm going to do something about it. Right? Same principle.
You know what they do? Filter.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
filter or listen. I know y'all don't look like that.
Dude, that is like a whole nother podcast. That would be a fun one though. That would honestly be a really fun. That is an epidemic.
I mean, it is. I mean, isn't it even classified as that now?
To change, it was one thing to be a catfish, and then it was another thing to have options of catfish species that you could be.
Bro,
you know?
Do you remember when Catfish came on the scene on MTV? The show Catfish?
I think I watched a couple of them.
Yeah, the show Catfish, where it was like, oh.
That guy was like going,
yeah. Like, I remember watching that, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is like a real thing. And then more and more people started to experience it, and it was just like a rolling snowball from there.
We got desensitized by it, and we're like, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's another issue, right? Desensitization. Did I say that crap right?
That sounds more like it.
Desensitization.
Correct him if you know what it is.
Anyways, it's an issue, right? It's like being desensitized to everything, right? And the more you are, the more blind you are, and the blinders that you have on, the more that you're not really able to do anything, right? You get stuck in this bubble and this hamster wheel, just turning and turning and turning, and you're going, "What happened? How did I end up to be wrapped up in this crap that I never thought I would be?" Right? Like, why? Like, how? I didn't know I was going to be a hater on social media. Like, you know, I think that might be some people's stories, but I think others are just outright idiots.
Yeah.
Right? And just, that's what they wake up and go do. You know, sit in a bedroom apartment with an air mattress on the floor and regurgitate crap.
Yeah. Your podcast sucks.
Right.
You know,
get a bed.
Dallas sucks. Yeah.
Get a bed.
Yeah. That was interesting. You know, we just to dial it back into the podcast real fast.
Yeah.
Just real quick. To think about TikTok and the algorithm and how to work that whole monster.
Yes.
Is it going to be banned? Have you heard anything about this?
I mean, I think it's been trying to, but my honest opinion about this is, I don't think it. I think if something gets passed to ban it, the company will sell to a U.S. company.
Okay.
And it will bypass the ban.
Yeah.
Right. It just will.
Because do you feel like that's like the monopoly that's being held to its neck right now? Is like, you're being banned or you sell to us?
I don't know if that's the monopoly on its neck right now. I think it's more of like that would be their strategic move so they don't lose their largest customer base. Like TikTok's the largest, if I'm not mistaken, their largest user base is the U.S.
Yeah.
And so, like, why would they jeopardize that? Because if they lose the U.S., I don't know if they'll make it.
It won't be as cool.
No, I don't know if it'll. I really don't know if they'll make it.
No.
No.
Well,
no.
I think the world is using it, but you have to imagine the USA is almost like every part of the world in one place. Just a central hub for the diversities of different cultures and different types of people, and so to lose that would be pretty devastating, I would imagine.
I could. Oh yeah. I mean,
plus we're so self-centered, to be honest.
Losing a couple 100 million users.
Yeah.
Like that's a big.
Yeah.
Like no SaaS, no app wants that to happen because so they have strategic moves to be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
And so, like if that does happen, like there might be some hostile takeovers, but they'll red pill and move on.
And move on. You said it perfectly. They'll literally we'll have a little bit of hysteria about it for a moment, and then
I don't think it's gonna be a moment. I think it's gonna be a little bit.
You think?
Oh yeah. I mean, I say that, but it's just until the next big headline comes.
Sounds like there's opportunity out there. Anyways, TikTok algorithm, trying to figure out how reels work.
Yeah. The
whole 9 yards, trying to understand if it's going to be banned, blah, blah, blah. But we had a reel just recently, and I think Cody says it a lot, which is kind of like it's almost designed around feed it money, pay to win. Right, promotion to get views and that sort of thing for...
TikTok is still very much undervalued. I don't think, no. If you feed it right and you feed it what it needs, then you can blow up massively organically still, right? There's still a major organic play on TikTok, and I think we'll get there. I don't think TikTok is a pay-to-play platform yet. Like Facebook or Instagram, right? I think those platforms are definitely pay to play now, right? They're mature. Like you can't just
very difficult.
It's very difficult to grow organically on Instagram. It still happens, 100%, but it's not like what it used to be 7-8 years ago. Anybody can get on there and freaking start an interior design Instagram page and blow up to 30,000. Like that was just what they can do. But it's not that way anymore. TikTok is still very much there, right? TikTok is a very much undervalued platform. Now they're maturing, right, with their ad platform. They're maturing with the TikTok shop and with the creator programs and everything that they're doing. You
know what's interesting about the TikTok platform? In my opinion, from all socials, it's like the main one that you save something and want to go back and show someone it later. Right? I mean, on Facebook and Instagram, you might send something in Messenger or on the DM or whatever to somebody, right? Occasionally. And some might do it more often than not. But it's like, because of TikTok's like For You page and what you save to it, you find like your significant other or your friend comes to you and it's like, hey, look at all these ones that I have, these funny ones. I find that interesting. It really doesn't do anything different, but there's something about the style of TikTok that they nailed down.
It's the virality.
Okay.
Like they
Do you think it's the editing factor?
I think they nailed attention. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to, right? The one who holds attention holds power.
Yeah.
Right, and so like they were able to capture attention, of course, right? Like their editing features, their their sounds and all the stuff they have. Like it's all encompassing to help a creator garner attention to be able to get their video out there, right? Everything. Well, social is about attention, right? Like, let's not look at it from a consumer perspective. Let's look at it from a business perspective. Business, we're trying to capture attention for our company, our brand, our nonprofit, our cause, whatever it is, right? We're trying to capture attention, because if we can capture the attention, then we can move that individual through our funnel, right? We can move them to the top, to the middle, to the bottom, to the funnel, and be able to market to them across each individual sector. And that's really what we need to be doing, right? But it's about garnering the attention first, right? And then you go, how do you get attention? That's the game.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, just a phenomenon, really. That app is just something.
Yeah.
I think there's. I'm sure there's case studies out there.
Oh, there's got to be. I would love to like just hear from the original founders of TikTok and like what they were thinking when they built the app.
It's probably nothing along the lines of what they thought it was going to be.
What they believe it is now and how they believe it should be, and what their goal is for it now. Like, I don't know. Right? It'd be really cool though to hear that.
Which is a good segue into kind of what our expectations are for this thing, as we're in this moment for the podcast, which, season 3 could see some more significant change, It did for season 2, and season 3, season 4 could do the same thing from a guest perspective, from internal perspective, from
everything. I think it should, right? Like, I think some things will stay the same because they work. Don't break what, don't fix it doesn't need to be broken. I think other things will change. Other things will morph. We will get really good at other things. We will fumble out on other things. But ultimately, like, we will see a difference between season 2 to season 3 because that's growth.
You said something interesting just a second ago. You said, don't fix what doesn't need to be broken. That was really interesting.
Don't fix what doesn't need to be broken.
Right. Which I think standardly it's don't fix what's not broken.
It's one of those things.
What I'm saying.
Jeez, bro.
No, I'm not calling you out for saying it wrong. I'm saying
you did.
I'm saying from a 2024 perspective, your way applies better. The way you just said it. Don't fix what doesn't need to be broken, because we break things on purpose just so we can fix them. But they didn't need to be broken. I just thought that was interesting.
And now that you talk like that, I don't know if it makes sense in my head anymore.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Oh.
It didn't initially, but it does, and it kind of applies. You said don't fix what doesn't need to be broken. But standardly, it would be don't fix what's not broken.
Don't fix. Yeah, it's that. That's what I meant to say. That's what I thought.
But the way you said it, though, was like, that was kind of inspiring. And like I said, it applied currently.
I'll take it.
Because I feel like society kind of does that.
That's what I meant. That's how I meant it, too.
You thought I was just going to call you out on the podcast. Bro, that's literally.
I thought you did.
Yeah, right. That's literally my wife and I's daily routine. It's like, did you say, and whatever it is, wrong?
Yeah.
We call it out for every single time. I'm like, seriously, we've been married for how long?
You should.
Like, leave me alone.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, you should.
You should call it out. Like, I think that's the fun in marriage, right? Just being able to just screw with each other, and like, it's just fun, right? Like, if you're not having fun, then like, what's happening really?
Yeah, that is so true. I'm excited to continue having fun on this podcast with you, man.
Same, bro.
Yeah.
I'm super excited, man. This has been awesome. I'm excited for what's coming. I'm excited for what we're doing, what we have in the pipeline. I'm excited for the audiences to be able to continue to see what we're doing. I think all in all, like, it's just been, that's a good way to sum it up.
A journey.
It's been fun.
It's been fun, yeah.
It's been fun.
It has been.
It's been really fun.
Yeah.
And so.
Appreciate you, dude.
Appreciate you, man.
Until next time, and this 6 layout you've got going on here.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, there's a lot that you guys don't see.
Yeah, you might, though, if we take a picture of this stuff.
Yeah, I think
hello.
We get interrupted.
Bella, right?
Bella.
Hey, Bella. Perfect way to end it, man.
Appreciate it, brother. You. Awesome, brother.